Lumte vaquital, jate chichel, ite sactel, calte chulel, ite sactel, calte chulel. Lumte vaquital, lumte vaquital, jate chichel, ite sactel, calte chulel. Lumte vaquital, lumte vaquital, ite sactel, ite sactel, calte chulel. Lumte vaquital, jate chichel, ite sactel, calte chulel. Lumte vaquital, jate chichel.
All right.
Well, hello,
All right.
everyone.
Hello.
Welcome.
Should we redo that?
That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. That was a recording from our special guest today, Luix Saldaña. And I am Tracy Barnett with the Esperanza Project with my co-host, Tammy Brunk, Earth Sky Woman, Tammy Brunk. And we're here to spend a little time exploring the life and the work of Luix Saldaña. I met Luix in 2010 at the Vision Council, Guardians of the Earth, or the Consejo de Visiones, as it's more commonly known, since it's based in Mexico and Latin America. And Luix is one of those magical people behind the scenes, usually, who is making things happen that you're not even aware of until later. You just are completely blown away by the quality of what's going on. And it wasn't until later that I realized that his own particular body of work is quite impressive as well, because he's not the kind of person to be out there blowing his own horn. So that's why I thought it would be really important and special to highlight the work of Luix, because Luix is the one who is one of the pillars of the Vision Council, which we've talked about before, but in brief, it is a collective of people from throughout the world, but especially Mexico and Latin America, who bring together art, activism, spirituality, tradition, and integral health into these transformational gatherings that have touched thousands and thousands of lives and made a difference throughout the continent. And so Luix, let's see. Yeah, Luix is that magician, like I said, behind the incredible high power concerts that are coming together out of the middle of nowhere in these transformational gatherings with some of the leading musicians of the country and beyond. And his own band, Tehualne, the music also is indescribable. His music, we'll let you have a little taste of that in a minute. So it was here at Nierica at the Vision Council, the first 4 Vision Councils that I attended, that the idea of the Wirikuta Fest was born. And the seeds for that was planted. And for those who don't know, Wirikuta is one of the most sacred sites in Mexico for the Wirarica people, but also for many others. And it's the place where the peyote gardens, where people go to find their visions and communicate with the ancestors. And that was under threat by transnational mining companies. The Wirikuta Fest Fast forward, and that was 2 years later that probably, I guess, a dozen of the top artists in Mexico filled the Foro Sol Stadium. 60,000 people were there, chanting and shouting to save Wirikuta in the midst of a concert that had just the best talent in all of Mexico. And Luix was also one of the key figures behind that. And thanks to that concert, this particular cause, this land defense of the most sacred, one of the most sacred sites in Mexico, it became a national cause. And to this day, the mining has not proceeded in that sacred site. So that's just one of just one tiny example of the kinds of things that Luix has been involved in with his collective use of art to promote causes and also to elevate the human spirit. So Luix, let's see, I'm going to share just a little bit here from his bio. Luix Saldaña is a musician, composer, healer, ethnic instrument maker, craftsman, weaver, interior designer, researcher of indigenous ritual songs, facilitator of drum circles, writer, and activist. His study and development in music was and has been mostly in Mexico City and San Francisco, California. He extensively ventured into 60s psychedelic rock, pop, and ritual music from Africa and continental indigenous shamanic music. He has played in salsa, reggae, psychedelic rock, Persian pop, jazz, funk, new age, world music, and Afrobeat groups. He is the founder of the Musical Ritual Project Tehualne, which you can find on his SoundCloud as well as YouTube. This concept is the sum of his eclectical musical walk and a spiritual search from indigenous roots. As a musician researching ancient forms, he saw the need to build ethnic instruments that were not commercially available, hence the Earth Sounds project arose. Luix will come back to Tehualne and some of the exquisite creations that you have made through that group. But first, I'd like to begin with an intervention from Earth Sky woman Tammy Bronk, who is the originator of this series and also an astrologer, as many of our readers will already know. And Tammy's done a little reading of your chart to kind of lay the groundwork for us as we move into this interview. So Tammy, would you like to share some of your insights? You're muted.
Okay. So yeah, absolutely. So I am so excited to be here, first of all, with you, Luix and Tracy. And when I was looking, just to give a little bit of a background for what the original EcoSapien speaker series was part of, it was part of a convergence to bring visibility to eco-elders and individuals who are bringing forward a new vision for how we can create a sacred culture across the Americas, with the recognition that the whole globe is in the midst of this massive turning of the ages, as Joanna Macy would say, and that some of the focus of that is in the Americas. And you can look at this based on the eclipses that are traversing the Americas from 2017 until 2024. Also, the US having its Pluto return right now. But that this is a moment where we need to be able to hear from individuals like Luix, especially in the North. We very much are needing to have our imaginations and our visions seeded with the kinds of magic and beauty and hope that that Luix, that you bring. And so when I looked at your chart, we're just going to look at it really quickly here, because this can give us some clues about, how your story weaves into the larger story. Right now, as we speak, we have Mars is in the sign of Gemini. And so it's going to be soon beginning a new Gemini cycle. And that has to do with the emergence of the magical masculine. And we're shifting from the warrior masculine archetype to the magical masculine. So here we have Luix with his Gemini sun. And even just watching the first video of the beautiful music that he's been creating, I think you can feel this, that we have in our world this need for the masculine who is here to weave, to cast a new spell, to tell a new story, to bring a new way of interacting with the world. So that's the first piece. The second is that we also have one of the first things that I saw in your chart, Luix, was that you have your moon in Scorpio. And not only that, you also have the asteroid Hygeia, which is the fourth largest asteroid. She's a really important astrological figure that's often not seen, but is very essential. Both Scorpio and Hygeia carry this very primordial, very primal energy that helps us connect into the life force energy, into the aliveness that we can only access when we have a very strong, deep connection to the earth herself. And so with Luix's moon in Scorpio, I feel very often that we in the North need more of that Scorpio wisdom, that Scorpio connection to the deep earth and to the ancient mysteries. And so again, this is part of what you see and feel when I've heard you, Luix, when you bring this music alive, it stirs something inside of my soul that's so ancient and so deep. And I think this is part of what we're needing to remember as a collective. So really honoring that. And also, of course, that you were part of this generation that grew up when Pluto and Virgo were in the sign, Pluto and Uranus were in the sign of Virgo, and those two incredible teachers, master teachers, were coming together in that sign and initiating this massive cultural change. And your Mars is in Virgo, so there's something for you. What Virgo is really about in its essence is being in profound devotion and service to Gaia herself. And so there's something with that as well that's so beautiful. And then finally, with your ascendant in Capricorn, and also that you were born in a Capricorn Venus cycle, you are really here. You are someone who's here to help us to mend or heal the old patriarchal cultural conditioning, and to bring in a whole new kind of culture that's infused with that magic and with that deep connection to the earth. So with that, I just wanted to introduce that as a bigger frame. Luix, your music speaks for itself, but thank you for allowing me that, just that deeper look. And as we begin, Luix, just to ask you in terms of the stars, in terms of prophecy, any of these things, what how do you see the time that we live in right now? How do you see this age change? And how does your work, how is it inspired by that?
I think I got lost with the question.
Okay.
Can you rephrase it?
Yes. So if you think about, even, for example, in your coming of age in 1987, there was the harmonic convergence, right? Then we had the 2012 Mayan calendar and so many other ancient prophecies coming alive now. So that's part of why we began this series, as we are in another moment where there are more of these big astrological movements happening. So the question is, how do you see this current age that we are living in, and how does that inspire your work?
Well, I think the inspiration comes from my path. See, I never decide that I wanted to be a musician. Mm-hmm. I never decide that I want to be an artist. It just happened. I never had the problem of what do I want to be when I grow up? I simply start to do things, and things happen after that. People start to ask me for my art, for my work, for my presence. And what I see nowadays is that the world is in such state that the majority of the young ones are living a really fast life, and without consciousness. It's just, let's have fun, let's party, let's enjoy this, let's enjoy that, and it's a little bit like a fast pace without hope for the future. I live in the Caribbean, and I see what is happening in Tulum. In Tulum, everything is mixed up. Everything.
Wow.
The party, the drugs, the fast pace, the fast life, the technology, and also the mysticism. The same people that party last night and they were totally loaded are going to the Temazcal or are going to the ayahuasca ceremony, and everybody is doing everything they can possibly do to live really fast. So I think my role in this is to try at least to be an example of just relax, just walk slowly, just observe what is happening around you, observe and take care of your soul, your mind, your body. I mean, I do what I can, and I know I have certain power. You just told me a little bit about my astrological chart, and incredible things happen to me. One thing that has been happening to me all my life is that people think I'm a woman, and it's amazing. When I was younger, people will call me señorita. See, now I'm older, they call me señora, but it's without fail, and it makes me laugh because the other day I was in the Caribbean. Is so hot that I almost never use a shirt, so you can see my chest. So, and these people are telling me señora, and it's amazing. Or when I go to a public bathroom, a public toilet, people trying to stop me. No, 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 don't go there. This is for men. And it's so fun. But also, there's this is very humorous to me. But like 2 days ago, there were two people from the streets, kind of alcoholic types, and they asked me if I can heal them. They asked me if I can help them just by walking in the street and looking at me. And I say, well, how you know I can heal you? I say, because I can see you're a healer.
Right.
So
They can see it.
I have this energy and I use it, and life has blessed me with this kind of energy, and I assume the role. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I did not realize you live in Tulum, but you're bringing up such an important theme that you are an elder in so many ways, and that in your eldership you have you can see the way that some of this really potent wisdom and these traditions that you have been bringing forward in a very respectful way, that there are ways that they're being misused now. So now you get to, as an elder, continue to transmit a wiser way of working with the earth and with these mysteries, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Luix.
Yeah, That's really important, your role, Luix.
Very important.
It's important on so many levels.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go back to the context in which we met, which was the Vision Council. And I'd like to know more about your role with the Vision Councils, because you've been there since the very beginning. You've been a pillar in that whole institution. And we're, actually trying to promote right now a brand new edition of this transformational gathering, which is going to be happening in December. Luix has already put together a star-studded program for 3 nights of concerts that happen on top of everything else. And I'd just like to know the story of how you got involved with this group of visionaries and what it was that made you decide to continue collaborating with them and to become such a pillar in its evolution.
Wow, that's a great story. So I met these people when they were touring in United States, and they came to Berkeley, and at that time I was working as an activist with the AIM, which is the American Indian Movement, and they were holding these events in La Peña in Berkeley, which is a cultural place, and Tonya Osher was working there too. We both were doing video, and it's how I met Tonya, which lives in Huehuecoyot, and which is also part of the Vision Council. So I met her, and several times she mentioned about her family in Mexico and her community in Tepoztlan, Huehuecoyot, and I was very curious, but it happened that we have one event which the illuminated elephants, which was all these people from Huehuecoyot, from Tepoztlan, they were coming to one of the events of the AIM, and they were bringing their act, and I was, wow, great! I'm gonna meet your family from Mexico. So the day came, and I was deeply impressed. I was very impressed because, for starters, every character had a strong personality. There was about 10 or 12 of them, between women and men, and they were from different nationalities from all over the world, and they were led by Alberto Ruz, and their act was a mix of activism, art, poetry, and singing and preaching. Not preaching, but informing of their doings, and also pictures. They were projecting some pictures of their work and their tours and blah blah. They were a caravan going everywhere. So I was deeply impressed, and I got stuck with them being their driver. So I took them to several different events, and we became friends, almost family. So anyway, they invited me to Huehuecoyot, and Tonya offered me her house. So I went to Huehuecoyot after a few months. This is well, I live a situation there which was not a very happy situation. I didn't feel welcome in Huehuecoyot. So I got out of there next day. And I was sad because I was expecting a deep connection with all these people. And but anyway, I was fascinated by the people and by Huehuecoyot. and by Tepoztlan. I had never been before in Tepoztlan, and Tepoztlan is very strong place and very alternative place. So eventually I moved back to Mexico and I moved to Tepoztlan. And there came one Vision Council, one of the events, and I got invited by some of the people. And I didn't want to go because of what happened before, my experience before in Huehuecoyot. But these people were very persistent. So I told them, Mira, look, I don't want to go because this happened, blah, blah, blah. And I felt so hurt and I didn't feel welcome. And this person that invited me told me, yeah, sometimes we are not very nice people. We are a little bit arrogant, which is not very good. But come to the council, come to the gathering, and look and experience the quality of the work. So that convinced me. So I went to the first gathering. For me, was in Michoacan, and I was open. You know, I went to work the whole week in the kitchen, and I gave myself to the task. And the thing that impressed me the most is that Helen, one of the elders, came with a group of chavos banda, you know, like gangs from Ciudad Nezahualcóyotl, Iztapalapa, like really low down places in Mexico City, and she invited like about 10 of these people, you know. They were not existing punks yet, but they were chavos banda, you know, which is gang members. So anyway, these guys were assigned a place to camp, and they have their own camp, and the nighttime came, and they managed to smuggle some tequila and mezcal, and they start to get drunk, and the campament and their own campament, and every woman. I mean, these gatherings, the council gatherings, are full of beautiful women, you know, with very light clothing and really nice clothing, really nice fashion, hippie fashion, you know, hippie chic fashion, and these guys were telling things to every woman that passed by, you know, mamacita, que guapa estás, take me with you, blah blah blah, of the whole thing. So anyway, next morning, all the women were totally mad. They were angry and they were attacking. You know, before the breakfast, before breakfast, they were having some kind of jury against these gang members. We cannot allow this to happen. We cannot allow this kind of people come here, blah, blah, blah. They were all complaining and they were all giving their own version of the situation. So when all these women accused these guys of really bad behavior, and one of them, I believe, was a loco. You know, loco is one of the leaders. One of them said, okay, can we talk? And please. And he said, something of that sort, something like, listen, I grew up in the ghetto, and my father, most of the time, was in jail for alcohol or for drugs or for stealing. And when he came home, when he was free, he was beating up my mom every day. My mom sometimes had to prostitute herself to bring money. My mom sometimes, most of the time, was washing washing clothing from rich people. So I grew up in the streets, and I'm a rascal. I've been a thief, I've been this, I've been a gang member. I have done really terrible things. And if you can listen to the story of each one of us, is similar. But we like what we see here. We want to learn from you. We want to find a better way of life. So please don't reject us. Please don't throw us out. Please have some guts because it's not easy. We want to change, but the change won't come easily. The change won't come from one day to another. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes like the last night, but we are willing. Please don't reject us. So all these women, they were accusing these guys and they wanted to throw them out. Change. Everybody start to hug them. We surround them in a big embrace and we welcome them. For me, was the most impressive result of the work that the Consejo is doing. So that's the story that I live in Michoacan.
Wow. And if I can add as a footnote to that, by the time I got to the Consejo in 2010, that story must have happened around early 90s, right? Or
and Chalmita?
no, the story that you just told when
yeah, early 90s, like 92, yeah. 93.
Well, by the time I got there, it was maybe 8 years later. And Loco and all of his band were serving as security. They're the security team for the Consejo. And we accidentally locked our keys in the car. And guess who knew how to get the keys out of the car?
Loco.
And those guys were just the most lovely, really welcoming, people. I'll never forget the vision of them lining up to give hugs to the elders when we had the elders council, and they've just become really another very essential part of the Consejo and an example of how love heals, right? And that's something that the Consejo really offers that I've not seen happen in this way anywhere else.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
To end this part of the story, something but I want to share this with the people that are listening or watching us, is that at the end, these gang members became punks, all of them. And the first immediate action they started to take was to take over land in their barrios, to take over idle land, lots, and clean them and plant urban permaculture, plants. And nowadays, most of them are business people, they manage, they have La Pulquería de Insurgentes, and they have this business, and they have a big festival that happens every year. Some of them are martial arts champions. Some of them are national champions, and some have international titles. So they are so positive. They are achievers, and they are a good tribe. And so that's the result of this story.
Amazing work. And I dropped by. I had the chance to drop by the Pulqueria on Insurgentes once, and pulquerias normally are little like hole in the wall joints where you can get pulque, which is the most natural and ancestral form of kind of agave liquor, which tequila was derived from. But the Pulqueria on Insurgentes is enormous. It's like, what, 4 stories high at least, or 5. And each different story has a different thing going on, a different band, maybe projecting a movie, it's become a cultural center of sorts too, and they'll have benefits for different causes, and it's become a real hub of the alternative community, and quite a successful business too, as you say. So yeah, one of many success stories in the Vision Council. And Luix, your role in that, I notice you have a way of talking about everybody else, but you don't talk very much about yourself, which is one of your endearing qualities. But I would like to know how you evolved the Vision Council is divided into different councils, different thematic councils, and health and tradition and ecology. And the one Luix has been heading up for all these years is art and culture. So can you tell us a little bit about how that got started?
Okay. Well, my first gathering, as I say, was in Michoacan, and I love the kitchen. I love to cook. I'm a good cook, so I enjoy myself the whole week, and I wanted to continue there. But next gathering, I don't remember which one was, but I started to see the art that was happening. It was a really was it was beautiful, but was not well organized. It was not much. It was just having a good time every night around the fire, you know. And sometimes somebody with a guitar and a couple of singers will take over the fire and stay there the whole night, you know, and won't give room for other people, you know. So I realized that that was an area that can get better with a little bit of management and a little bit of program. So right there, I started to organize the people around the fire, you know, like making a program to give time to the people that want to say a poem, sing a song, um, say a story, uh, do a dance, share something. So I started to make my list, my programs, and invite people uh, during the daytime. Tell them you want to do something around the fire and the night. So I organized a program right then, and it was a success. I like it. I like it, and I realized that I like it to go one step ahead. So next gathering, I invite musicians to the gathering, and I dare to have sound system, which was unheard of. You know, there were so many people against having a sound system. You know, and but mostly I was supported by the young ones. The young ones were so tired of singing around the fire because there was always this. It was beautiful, but the quality of what was happening with the songs and the chants around the fire was very air and water and very little fire, very little earth. And the young ones were tired of air and water, and they want fire and they want earth. So I started to this program with more, you know, more spark, and I managed to have a sound system, and the young ones were really happy. And I make my first program, Electrify, and I was attacked by so many people because you know the birds and the mountain and blah blah and blah blah. And I say, well, you know, we have to walk with the times. I mean, I know maybe the birds are angry or maybe the birds are not liking it, but maybe they are liking it. You know, so how you know if the birds are not happy? So anyway, that's how I started this. And every year I dare a little bit more. Every year I was daring more and more and more and more daring. And every year I have these encounters with people, you know, especially some of the old timers, you know, or the originals. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. But always the young ones were behind. Always. They were pushing. They were pushing. And one of the instances that happened and one of these gatherings, this was an Istak. Istak is an ashram, you know. Istak is a sacred, holy place. You don't eat meat. You don't play certain type of music. You meditate. You do yoga. You fast. You heal. You pray. All these things, you know. So it's almost a holy place. So I dare to bring electronic music because the young ones were asking me. See, and I have so much opposition because electronic music has such bad reputation, you know. But I thought I knew I was doing what I was doing. You know, I have electronic music with good taste. I was learning myself about electronic music, opening myself, opening my brain, opening my heart to electronic music, because I was also a little bit prejudiced against it. But some of the young ones got me, you know, like a crash, how you call it, a crash course on electronic music. So I learned. So anyway, we put this electronic music and the gathering one of the nights, and it was such a success. Even the people of the ashram were dancing. So we all were dancing and dancing and dancing. And from then on, I have open programs, you know. They finally decide that I was doing something good for the young people. They decide that I was enriching the consejo with all this daring and all these programs. And throughout the years, I work on weaving a network of artists, allies. See, the consejo has no money. Every time we held a gathering, we are in reds, you know. And so I became this guy convincing artists to donate their art because it was a good cause and because it was something that they don't want to miss neither. So it's how I sell to the artists the consejo. This is one place that you want to be. And this is one event that you don't want to miss because it's going to change your life. And so I have managed to have this nice network of artists that nowadays I have more artists than I need, you know. And I managed to have programs that in theory it will cost me 500,000 or 1 million pesos to program this, and I do it with 30,000 pesos, 50,000 pesos at the most. So this is a good weaving of a network. You know, also I have within the network there's engineers, sound engineers, technicians, and people to help me. So the job is done, you know. So this is how the Consejo de Arte came about, and it's how it's operating.
Wow, you know, that's so interesting. I've always wanted to ask you how you were able to get people like Ruben Albaran from Cafe Tacuba, Rocco, eh, Moyene, these really high power people. Lengua Lerta. These are big names in Mexico, and they don't charge a dime. And I noticed that, well, really, they have a feeling of real warmth and cariño, affection for the consejo. They feel part of the consejo, and and now I understand a little bit more about how that happened. Well, you brought them in, and you changed their lives by bringing them in, I suspect.
Yeah. And it's how the Virikuta Fest happened. It's just the same technique, but it was
You just don't
bigger.
want to miss this. You have to be there.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
won't be missing.
The Virikuta Fest started like a dream, you know. I learned about Virikuta, and I learned about the mining companies, and I learned about the agricultural, full of pesticides and agrochemics that were happening there. And I was like going to bed thinking, what can I do for Virikuta? You know, I love the culture. I love the Wirraritari, and I love what they share with us. And I was thinking, my skills are this and this and this and this. What can I do for Virikuta? And after several nights of thinking, I went to Nierica with Armando Loizaga, and have a conversation with him. And this was the seed of the whole thing. You know, I started to send messages in Facebook and all the social networks, and I started to talk to people, and I started to get when you know el Frente para la Defensa de Virikuta. Remember that? When they organize themselves and they make a call for people to come to La Pirámide, Centro Cultural La Pirámide, to organize themselves. And they were organizing themselves in comités they call mesas. La mesa de ecología, la mesa de administración, la mesa de comunicación, and they have no art. They have no art committee. So I came to this meeting with Rocco, and I think Moyene, and we offer ourselves to be the mesa of art. You know, we'll be the committee representing art and organizing art. And they, you know, Rocco is Rocco. They accept because Rocco was there. But it really, all these people, along with some, with Radica, people were family. They knew each other. Some of these Tevaris, the mestizos, that were not with Radica, were having a long time relationship with the Wirras. So they were all like a family. They all knew each other except us. So at one point, I realized that we were like the unwanted child of El Frente. You know, they only accept us because it was Rocco there, but we were the outsiders. See, so it was a very interesting story too, because soon enough we were the strongest and the biggest committee that the Frente had. You know, we grew so fast, we grew so much, and they were trying to control us. You know, and for me, my way of seeing how things were going, it was like my resource, my riches, my most precious resource are the artists. you know, all these musicians. So I have to protect them from all the politics, you know. I want them out of the politics if that is possible, and if they want to stay out of politics. So all the attacks and all the blocking of the work of my committee was coming to me, you know. So it was a interesting work. So anyway, we have to ask permission for everything. And you know how we radical people are, they are also very controlling, because you cannot do this because this is sacred. You cannot say this because that and that. You have to ask permission for this and blah, blah. And I was realizing, with so much rules, with so much control, we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve. So we want to separate ourselves from El Frente. We want to separate ourselves from Consejo Bioregional with Radica. We want to be allies. We want to be independent allies. And that was, wow, created a turmoil, you know?
I remember, yes, it did.
So some people from the Frente and some of the Wirras were calling Rocco and calling Ruben and telling them that I wanted to take control of everything, that I was not a good person, and blah, 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 blah. So it took me time. So these people, the artists, can really trust in what I was doing. So finally, they all agreed to separate ourselves and create the Ajo Colectivo. Once they create the Ajo Colectivo, things went fast. And I don't know if you want to continue this story, but the story is long, you know.
I think while you go ahead and wrap up the story, and meantime, I'm going to look for the video, because it's such a special video that that went viral, that the Ajo Colectivo did, and it's again some of the biggest names in Mexico.
I continue with the story then. Every meeting we have a new ally, strong allies, and like first step was we have this committee working with Rocco, with Hector Guerra, with Moyone, and some video makers and some graphic artists. And one night, Moyone called me and asked me to come to Tepoztlan to have a meeting with Ruben. So I went to Tepoztlan, had a meeting with Ruben. We explained the project, we explained what was happening in Viricuta, and we explained what we want to do. We want to have this incredible festival. The name of the festival, we got it with Armando right in the first conversation, Viricuta Fest. So Ruben was excited. He said, wow, let's do it. I go for it. So we start to have these meetings in Mexico City at La Pirámide, and soon there was Lengua Alerta, soon there was more people, more video makers, more allies. We were like 30 people working towards this goal. And one of these meetings, Ruben came with the manager of Café Tacuba. And this guy was also working in Ocesa. Ocesa is the biggest events producer in Mexico City. They are the ones that move El Foro Sol y el Palacio de los Deportes, the biggest venues in Mexico City. So this guy, Balbi, came and joined the committee. And then we took it one step further. There was another ally from Ocesa, which was Jordi. He never came to the meetings. And we started to organize big time. So the first step, we make a letter, an invitation letter for the artists. It was a very seductive letter. Give us your work, give us your art. We choose you because your path. We choose you because you know have this type of consciousness about the earth and about the cultures and about Virikuta. So we are planning this and we invite you to be part of this. You don't want to miss it. It was a very seductive letter and was with great art, with great graphics, and we send it everywhere. We send it to the biggest rock stars and artists in Mexico, within Mexico. And so there was a success. It was a big success. I'm going to finish with the fact that all OCESA got involved. At first, there was only Jordi and Balbi from OCESA helping us. And when we put out the first stack of tickets, we put out there 10,000 tickets for the concert, and they sold out in 1 hour. So the whole place of CESA started to look at us. Who are these people? Because we have no publicity. We have no money for publicity. So it was all word of mouth. So in the next couple of days, they put out 10,000 more tickets and they sold in a few hours. So that was a revolution, you know, and they wanted to give us El Palacio de los Deportes. El Palacio de los Deportes have space for 20,000 people. And we say, no, no, no. We want El Foro Sol. Open El Foro Sol because we're going to sell all these tickets. And they say, okay, we open the Foro Sol, but we need one more big band. You know, we already have Bumburi, we have Julieta Venegas, we have Café Tacuba. We have like 6, 7 good numbers already lined up. And they want another more so they can give us El Foro Sol. So we have to convince Caifanes. So that was a tough job because Caifanes have internal problems. I think they were not talking to each other. I think they were not liking each other. So we have to convince to make peace and come and play with us because there was a place where they want to be that night. So finally we got Caifanes and we got El Foro Sol and we have all the tickets sold out. We almost opened the place for 80,000 people, but the OCESA people were not daring. But
you got Calle 13 too, right?
It was Rene, sí, Calle 13. And Calle 13 came with Sac de la Rocha. I don't know if you know Sac de la Rocha from Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, that's a big one.
It was a whole lot of things happening. You know, Cecilia, the poet that was very popular at that moment, came and gave us a speech. Horodowski sent us something magical in video and blah, blah. So it was an incredible night, you know, full of peyoteros. The graphics were peyote. The projections were peyote. The decorations were peyote. And it was all peyote time.
Yeah. And some of the people that Luix is talking about are appearing here on the video that we're seeing, which was the really big release that went out from the Ajo Colectivo. This is primarily, here we see there's a band called Venado Azul, which is led by what's his name? Jose Venegas. I'm not sure his last name, and his child.
Jose Lopez.
Yeah, Jose Lopez and his little boy.
Joe Wabi.
Uavi, who has recently become even more famous than his father. But
That's
we
right.
also have the really big name here is Ruben Albarran from Cafe Tacuba, which if you have not heard Cafe Tacuba, you need to really check it out because this is one of the, I mean, this is just really one of the big voices in Mexican rock music. He is probably the top Mexican rock star. And then Rocco from Maldita Vecindad, Lengua Alerta, really powerful messages, really socially engaged artists. There are a number of them in Mexico, which I wish we had more in the United States like this. But at any rate, they were able to raise, I don't know how many million pesos for supporting sustainable development in the desert. How many million?
20 million. The concert cost us 10 million. So we were able to put out there 10 million for the cost. And several things, amazing things happen. It's like things like Ticketmaster gave us all their percentage.
Wow.
They put it back. And a lot of the providers, OCESA works with providers. They don't have equipment. They don't have the lights. They don't have a stage. They don't have sound. They all hire. So a lot of these people give us discounts. So it was like people were totally open. Once that they saw the movement, people were totally open, giving us back their gains, their economical gains. So that was very moving, very moving. And we were so amazed that we were able to touch so many hearts. So that was that.
I will never forget the moment when I got to join everybody up on stage at the end when they were making the agradecimientos, and to see that sea of people, 60,000 people all across the ground and then up the bleachers of the stadium, 60,000 people all doing the chant, Wirikuta no se vende, Wirikuta se defende. Wirikuta is not for sale. Wirikuta is to be loved and defended. And I'd never seen anything like that in my life. That kind of movement building needs to be happening again and again and again. If we could replicate that, and let's say climate change, for example, I don't know how that can be reproduced, but that's a success story that we need to really examine and see if we can.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. It was very moving. It was so strong for me that throughout the whole process, I was so calm. I was so in my center, and I was managing things really well. But when the day came, and we saw the results of our work, or will, the power of our wills, and how we wove this net of allies. Somebody came and asked me, "How are you feeling?" And I started to cry. I cannot contain myself. I guess it was some kind of cleaning. So what was the result end of all this,
Wow. Well, I was not expecting to go there. I do have a number of more questions, and Tammy does too, but how are we doing on time, Tammy? Because I don't want to overdo it here. Wait, you're in mute.
I think maybe about an hour at this stage.
Okay, so should we take a couple more questions, one from you and one from me, and wrap it up?
Yeah, maybe I think that might be good. This is so rich though.
Yeah, I
This is
know.
so
I mean, I think
important.
we
This
can
is
go
so
an hour.
essential.
I think we could go
Yeah.
an hour and a half.
Yeah, this is so, yeah, maybe just why don't you go ahead and ask your next question? It's a really good one.
Okay. Well, I love the concept of your own musical project. Luix Tehualne. Am I saying that right? Tehualne?
Mm.
Yeah, it means you are me. And that brings to mind, of course, that's the Nahuatl counterpart to the Mayan concept of in la Quech, right?
Right.
Right. So it's something I see reflected in your work, not just on a human to human level, but in terms of your connection with the natural and even the supernatural world. For you, music and art has been a real spiritual expression, no?
That's right.
So, yeah. So, can you talk a little bit about how this concept has influenced your life and your art? Tehualni.
See, the problem is that I cannot talk a little about all these stories. They are long stories.
Well, maybe we can watch it a little bit. A picture says 1,000 words, and a video says maybe more than 1,000. Tammy, do you want to cue
Which
that
one
up?
is this?
It's It's, well, let's see. There are a number of them called Telwani, but now we've gotten a little confused.
If you want to just send me the link so I can
Yeah,
be sure it's the
I'll
right
send you
one.
the link, and then you can play it in the background as Luix speaks, and then we'll save a little time to hear it as well, because the music is just beautiful. Okay. Luix,
Okay.
you want to go ahead while I find that link?
Okay, the story is how can I begin this story? I was living in San Francisco for 13 years, and I was working mostly with Africans. And my observation with Africans is that they were really proud of their roots, and they were living the roots. They were playing pop music, pop African music, but really attached to the roots. And that made me question, what about my own roots? What about my own music? And I started to dig a little bit, and I learned that the Mexican indigenous music, the ancient Mexican indigenous music, was lost. We lost it, with the conquest. We kept the instruments. We have the instruments, but we don't have the knowledge of what they were doing with it. So I started to study a little bit this ancient culture. I started to dig in deep, and eventually I moved back to Mexico. And the first thing I did was to start to learn the language of the Aztecs and Toltecs, which is Nahuatl. I'm going to go back a little bit. When I started to be a musician, I was a rock musician, and I was singing in English. And then the rock revolution came in Mexico, and we started to sing in Spanish. And that felt better, Singing in Spanish felt more like me. But when I started to do this kind of music, my roots, ancient music, I started to sing in native languages. And I felt that was right. I came home, and it's the most comfortable language I feel with when I sing in native languages. And so anyway, it was a whole lot of investigation about instruments, and like instruments were not available in the store. I have to make them. I have to learn how to make these ancient Mexican instruments, so I can have my own instruments. And I kept learning Nahuatl, and then once I progressed in Nahuatl, I started to learn a little bit of Wirrárica. And once that I learned a little bit of Wirrárica, now I'm here in the Caribbean, I'm learning Maya, all with the intention of making chants, doing my own chants. And also with all this, it goes the investigation of sacred ceremonies, sacred calendars, because one thing is to learn to say father, mother, table, house, home, day, blah, blah. And the other thing is to learn the terms they use for the sacred chantings, for their sacred ceremonies. So I have to study all these and integrate it to my chants. See, which, by the way, I started to do my own chants because I was singing chants from different native cultures. And that got me in trouble, especially in North America, because you cannot just go ahead and sing a chant from the Lakota or from the Diné and do whatever you want to do with that chant, because you get in trouble. So I got in trouble several times singing a chant in the place that I not supposed to sing the chant, or in the ceremony that I not supposed to sing that particular chant, you know. So I decide, well, I'm gonna make my own chants. I was very well influenced by all kinds of chants from the Amazons, from the Shipibo, from the Wirrárica, from the Lakota. So I have all these styles very well within me. So I can make my chants. So it's what I did. I make my chants and I chant whenever, wherever, and I do whatever I want to do with them, share them, record them, put electronic effects or take out the electronic effects, all that. And I'm not offending anyone. I'm just sharing my spirit, you know. Somebody told me, can you sing something more authentic? And I said, wow, more authentic than this. This is me, authentic me. So I'm authentic. And from that came Tehualne. I want to sing these chants. I want to perform them. I want to share them. So I got myself some friends with like-minded friends, good musicians, and I started to organize this, and it became a really nice project, which we haven't been very successful money-wise, but we have created an impact. We have enriched the culture. We like to enrich it more, you know, and this project started in the middle of the 90s, and there's so many people that have come through Tehualne, and also Tehualne has experienced some evolution, you know, changing instruments, changing concepts, and all that. So now I'm here, and musically, I arrived where I wanted to be. I don't need to search more direction. I only have to polish what I achieve. I have to polish my act. I have to polish my songs. I have to polish my composition. But I'm home, you know, I'm here. I lost you. I cannot hear you.
That's so beautiful, Luix. I was going to ask Tammy if she'd like to ask the next question.
I just first want to just comment because this has all been all been so rich, and I think there's so much about the convergence that led to this series was the restoring sacred culture across the Americas convergence, because the reason is because astrologically we've had this whole Capricorn and Pluto phenomenon since 2008. And what that's really about is the necessity of composting our current societal paradigms, and especially in the US right now. That's so incredibly important. And it felt so clear. I've worked with indigenous people throughout my life, and like you, Luix, I've always it made me look at my own roots and go back to my own roots. And so a couple of things that really struck me were the dance that you've had to do in learning from and being an activist to be an allyship with indigenous communities, while also having to maintain your own integrity and autonomy in creating something that draws from indigenous traditions. It's a very tricky place, right? So, and now you live in Tulum, where, what here in the North, often they talk about cultural appropriation and the challenges of working with indigenous cultures when you have a very immature, maybe culture. So I guess my question is, if you had advice, because you are a Capricorn ascendant, I would say you are in many ways an elder, but you're an elder who has such a youthful spirit and who so what kind of advice might you give to people if they want to draw from the wisdom of indigenous cultures, or the roots of cultures that are richer and deeper than what we were born into? How do we do that in a respectful way while maintaining enough space to create powerfully? Does this question make sense?
Great.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a difficult question because how we can share this with all these people that are a little bit lost, which have no interest sometimes in what we do, or if they have interest, it's because we look cool, we look mystical, we look powerful, and they want to take a picture with us, and send it home. Mom, I'm being spiritual. I'm with this great shaman, And I think it's the work of art, conscious art, can reach many people. Especially if you generate some kind of art according to the times, according to their tastes.
Yes. Yes, you've kept it very current.
So that's the idea, I speak your language, or I speak to your taste and to your needs, but I can share this with you, and maybe it'll be easier to digest.
Yes. Speak in a language people can understand. And I think also what I see in you is that you're so actively creating, so passionately, actively creating more beauty, creating more art, creating something new. You're taking from the root, but you're making something original, and it's in service. And I just think that that's something up here up north that maybe is most needed for us to remember our creative spirit and to create beauty in the face of what it is that is falling apart all around us. But I also, the matter of money that you talk about, that you brought in the artists, they don't make any money, that when we're done with the consejo, it's always in the red. This is part of the initiation. It sounds like part of the initiation is being willing to put ourselves out there for something far beyond money. And I think that's a beautiful example. So this is more a comment than a question, but mostly I just want to just express gratitude for the wisdom that you're transmitting. And I think that the questions Tracy has, I think your last question, Tracy, is really relevant, or last two.
Thank you for that, Tammy. That's a really important reflection. And I think there's so many things that you're saying, Luix, that are just really resonating with me as well. And I only hope that, I can find the way personally to hold the space in the way that you do, and to provide the kind of example of inner peace and consciousness that you do. It's really inspiring.
Really. You guys are doing great work. I admire you. I respect you a lot, and I'm glad we are part of the tribe. we are part of this movement and we are connected. I'm grateful.
It's such a joyful thing, really.
It is.
So getting back to the questions, so I don't think I'm going to be able to ask them all, but I do have a couple more. I don't want to miss talking about the amazing work that you've done facilitating percussion circles in your words, and let's see, in a project whose objective is to share with the general public the healing, integrating, and educational power of rhythm, and to show people their own rhythmic power. And you've done this work in corporate settings, in spas and schools, and you've even created a large and successful program of drumming circles in prisons. Can you talk about that healing, integrating, and educational power of rhythm and the way that you've applied it in the settings that you have?
Sure. Can I ask you, you have the video? One video from this?
I do.
Can I ask you to put it? Somebody's knocking on my door, and while I go and open, put just 30 seconds.
Will do. Okay. Let's see. It's going to take me a second to get to it, but I just had it in front of me. Tammy, it's called, excuse me, it's called Cultura Rítmica. And there you go, Tammy. I'm going to send you the link right now so that you can play it with a stronger signal. Well, did you get it in the chat? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm just about to share it.
If people can just bear with us for the 5 seconds of the ad, which we'll probably have to.
No, I think it's going to work.
Here we go.
What, Tracy?
Men's prison here, and he's going back and forth from a men's prison to a women's prison. These are prison things.
Back.
What strikes me is the smiles on people's faces, you know, in places that are really tough environments. So, yeah, while we watch this in the background, Luix, can you tell us a little bit about your experience using rhythm for healing in prison settings, first of all, and then in corporate settings, maybe as their kind of counterpoint to that?
See, what happened is that I started to do this when I arrived in Tepoztlan because I had the fever, the drumming fever. You know, I was a big time drummer, drumming in the streets and Sprout Plaza in Berkeley, and I got fascinated by the whole thing. And when I arrived in Tepoztlan, I want to keep on doing it, but I started to teach people and to facilitate people. And then soon I discovered that there was a whole movement all over the world that was structuring. They have structures to facilitate rhythm events, and they have different rhythm events specializing in different types of groups. You know, like they were business groups, they were sport groups, they were religious groups, they were groups just for fun, and all types of groups. Whenever and wherever there was a group, you can do a drumming and have some benefits and focus your facilitation into the main theme of this group. So it happened that I went to Canada to take a workshop, a 3-day workshop on how to facilitate. And I got into this with a big master, the big master of this facilitation, and one of the uh, the leaders of the whole movement was the teacher, and he was excellent. I learned so much, and I came back to Tepoztlan. I came back to Mexico, and I have nowhere to practice. I have no group to practice. Sometimes I call people, my friends, and they will come, but it was not good with my friends. And I went to knock doors in Mexico City, especially with the government. They have programs, for people in marginalized barrios in Mexico. And and I went there with my drums, and it was not good neither. So I started to knock doors and prisons, and it happened that the prisons opened the doors for me. So really, the people in jail were my teachers. It's where I practiced the most the skills uh, I learned with this my teacher, and I love it. I love it because they were so open, they were so grateful, they were so grateful, and I developed my own techniques. I step the things I learned, I evolve them, and I make my own style. And honestly, I can tell that I went to every big prison in Mexico City. Then I started to go to federal prisons outside Mexico City. And this went on for several years, and until I end up with in the island, like the images you see, is the Islas Marias, which now is closed, but it was one of the biggest and most interesting federal prisons in Mexico. And it's something that I like to continue, but now I live in the Caribbean. By the way, I don't live in Tulum. I live in Playa del Carmen. I don't like Tulum for living. But anyway, um, I've been trying to open doors in the jails around the area in Yucatan and Quintana Roo, but I haven't been able to connect. And because I want to keep doing this work, you know, I love this work. I don't make money with it. It's just voluntary, but it fulfills my heart. Uh, it feeds my soul, feeds my mind, feeds my life. So I still do it, but I do it for money. I do it in hotels, but I miss this part. So that's a synthesized story of how I got into this. And I can I have equipment for groups up to 150 people, but I can tell you that I can facilitate uh, groups of 2,000 people. I have done a group of 1,000 people, and it's so powerful. So that's that's the brief story of my facilitation
I'd
with
like to
drums.
take a moment to translate one of the quotes that you had there on your video, which is primitives who beat drums to drive away evil spirits are mocked by intelligent, civilized people who honk their horns to exorcise traffic jams.
That's right.
Kind of ironic what we consider primitive, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think it can get much more primitive than some of the instincts that we see playing out around us at the moment.
But drumming is great medicine.
Mm.
Drumming has so many benefits. See, drumming creates community. Drumming in groups with friends and family uh, creates a different type of communication. You start to communicate with people at soul level. See, drumming in groups creates better working groups. It creates better relationships. It has so many benefits. It's amazing what drumming does to us. So I recommend, see, my formula that I don't follow anymore, but my regular formula was drumming once a day, yoga once a day, making love at least once a week, sweat lodge at least once a month, and good food. That's my formula that I recommend.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Highly recommendable. Yeah. Well, I don't want to leave without talking about the song that actually prompted me to invite you to do this interview. Which
could I do one thing first?
What?
Could I share one thing?
Absolutely.
All right, this is just an astrological thing again, but I think it's so fun because when you look at, I want to share two things. First, I'm going to share Luix's chart again. So here you see there's Neptune is on his midheaven, meaning Neptune was at the very top of the sky the moment you were born. That's the planet of, among other things, it's a planet that has to do with a new dream. It has to do with being a visionary. It has to do with creating a new spell or a new consciousness, and based more in a unity kind of consciousness. And recently there were new images of Neptune that were discovered or that were taken from the new telescope. And so part of what I thought was interesting would be to share an image. Can you see this, the image of Neptune?
Yes.
So, because this is one of the planets that is really a very essential one in Luix's chart. And I just think it's fun to just see it because we're seeing it more clearly. It's just a symbol. It's a living being that's right there at the top of the sky the moment you were born. And you are such a beautiful example of someone who is bringing alive a new dream for all of us. So I just wanted to show that. That's all.
Wow, Neptune has a ring around it.
Yeah, isn't it gorgeous? It's like it's so alive. So these are the newest images that the Webb telescope is showing us that show us the living beings that are these planets.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Gracias, Tammy. I would like to learn more a little bit about this in the future.
Yeah.
If you can share more.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I would love to, of course.
Yeah. Neptune also has to do with dreams, right? So
yes, with dreaming
in the new dream.
Yeah. And some dream teachers, Sergio Magano, among others, would say that his elders tell him there's a Toltec calendar that ended in 2021 that transitioned. There's so many ways of saying this, but that we transitioned into from a day sun to a night sun, and that now this is a time for the dreamers. Now it's the time for us to remember how to dream a new dream. So that's probably a little bit yeah. So in any case, yeah, it's the planet of the new dream, you could say. So
really important. Thank you, Tammy, for that.
Welcome.
So what I wanted to share now is I wanted to hear the story behind the song that went viral in 2015 at the Vision Council that I helped to organize, the Call of the Sage, here in Jalisco, where I live, Jalisco, Mexico, close to Guadalajara. And there was a song, and that we have a tradition that the last day of the consejo is the cosecha, the harvest, when each of the councils presents the sort of in a creative and beautiful way the sum of the work that they've been doing all week: ecology, health, cosmovisions, and now art and culture. And the harvest of the art and culture council was sort of an explosion of creativity that just really, I think, stayed with everyone for it's a moment that is engraved on my memory and everyone who was there. And our friend Jorge Guzman created a beautiful video that went viral, but nobody knew that the song was written by Luix. We knew that he was at the center of the circle, kind of guiding everyone, you know, from just his low place on the, you know, on the close to the ground, and everybody around him was shining, but nobody knew that Luix was the author of that song until Jorge said about doing a new video, which we're going to be sharing here in this story that we're doing, and it's going to be released here shortly as a promotion for the upcoming Embrace of the Amate, the 16th Vision Council in December. So, but I would like to know, and we would all like to know, the story behind how the hymn of the Vision Council came about. And first, let's just watch a minute or two of it. This is the old video, and we're going to be sharing the new one. Our friend Arnold Ricalde, who was a wonderful activist as well. Center of the circus tent, that is where our plenaries and all of the big gatherings take place. We have multiple spaces where all kinds of things are happening at once. But this is full of, I don't know, several hundred people. And then there were multiple big name artists that were there, each of them standing up and giving their own. We're going to try to translate these lyrics for you in a story that is going to be coming out soon. That's lingua alerta. Big socially conscious rock people in Mexico City. That's Alexandra Blakely from Washington State. This is Maria May, Afro-Chilean goddess There we have Luix. If we can take a moment now for Luix just to tell us the backstory here.
My mind is busy all the time. I have a very active internal life. I'm always creating. My head is full of projects, all kinds of projects. My head is full of chants. My head is full of canciones. My head is full of designs, of weavings and poetry. I'm always like creating. I'm a machine. My mind is a machine. So I was doing my work, coordinating art, especially the musicians at this event, in Calpuli, Teopantli. And while I was doing my task, I started to sing. The line came, the main line came very easy. Consejo de visiones, guardianes de la tierra. And then I started to develop from there, and after chanting these lines for a while, I have a little composition, but all this was done on the walk. I was walking, moving from one place to another, chanting these lines, and finally I have this little composition, and I realized we can sing this. We should sing this, and then the idea came of inviting other artists. By the way, the main lines are mine. I started, but Pedro Badar contributed with the chanting. I asked Pedro Badar because he's the Heya Heya Ho expert. So I asked him, why don't you share with us a little Heya Heya Ho, but to be part of it. And then I asked the other artists to have a rap of their own, interjected in the middle of the chorus and the Heya Heya Ho. So at the end, I'm just I convoke, I call, I make the call, and I created the first line, and the rest of it is done by all of us, and yeah, and I called some of the artists and I told them the idea, and artists, how they are, sometimes they are hard to call. They were not taking me seriously, so I started to practice one part with one of them, and then another guy listened to us and said, well, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're planning this, and can I join? Sure. And soon we were 3, and then soon we were 4, and then soon we were a whole crew. Wow. And it happened magically, and it was a very powerful moment to perform it. It was very deep. I still can see the eyes and the smiles on the elders. They were sitting and with their eyes wide open, and they cannot believe that we making them fly. We were making everybody fly. So that's the story, brief story of the whole thing, which I wanted to repeat. I wanted to repeat for the embrace of the amate, but this time with anticipation. I already have the lines written. I already have the lines recorded. So soon I'm gonna share with everyone. So it's not only the art council singing it, it's gonna be the whole tribe. At least 500 people are gonna sing it. So soon you will receive the words, and you receive the tonality and the melody and the rhythm. So that's that.
And so if those of you listening are available on the 4th to the 11th of December, come on down to Tepoztlan and you'll see it yourself. And so I think with that, we've covered a lot of ground. There's a lot more we could cover, but I think it's time to go. Tammy, would you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
just there are two moments that I have captured on video that I've seen from a live event on video that I go to when I feel sad or when I feel like the world is not turning in the direction that I want, when I don't have hope for the future. The first is a moment from Standing Rock. And that's when you and I were there together, Tracy, when 1,000 people had come together to create the world's largest prayer chain. And we were all there, and it was a beautiful day, and thousands of veterans had arrived, and it was sunny, and this interfaith council was there, and there was the announcement that the lease for the lease had been denied. So there was this moment of celebration where everyone came together and were celebrating. And I asked a Dene friend, a Navajo Dene friend, to get the video footage. And he took the footage of everyone, the elders, people from all across the globe celebrating what would eventually be a win at Standing Rock. And that I listened to that and I watch that when I feel hopeless. And I listen to and I watch the video of this song when I feel hopeless, Luix. It's just, it's the medicine we need now. So I'm so grateful for you and so excited for the call of the Amate.
Yeah, let's make more medicine.
Yeah, more medicine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luix.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for bearing with us for all this time, and we'll see you in Tepoztlán at the
Seguro. Send you love. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Tlasucomati.
Tlasucamachililia. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.